Hi, and welcome to my review of Ellipse videos number 1 to 9. And as in previous reviews, you can treat it as a quiz where you can give yourself a score for each question. And this one can be counted out of 55. So you get your total of each page, put your total of the pages here, convert it to a decimal, and change the decimal to a percent. So let's start. Which value of eccentricity is closer to a line for an ellipse? So it can't be negative. And what happens in an ellipse is that if you have your vertices here, V1, V2, and your foci are close to the distance from the center is shorter than the vertices, then your ellipse will do this. But if your distance from this, if your V1, your vertices are here, and your focus is closer to it, like this, then the ellipse will be less oval, closer to a line. So the larger number, so the foci, the eccentricity is the C over the A. So the larger the A is larger than C, so the larger C is, or the further it is from the center, whatever the center might be, you get a larger eccentricity, and it'll be closer to being a line, because the less it is away from the center, it'll go closer to a circle. So the answer is 0.8. Give yourself a mark. Number 2, we have A is 5 here. The center is 0, 0 of the ellipse. And this A here is negative 5 stretched out. B here is 3. And B here is negative 3. So we want to find the foci. So the foci, this is the major axis, so the foci is around this axis. So we have A is plus or minus 5, so A squared is 25. And we have B is plus or minus 3, so B squared is 9. So the equation is that C squared is equal to, in this case, it's the A squared minus the B squared, because the major is the horizontal. So C squared is, A squared is 25, B squared is 9, so C squared is 16, so C is plus or minus 4. So the center is 0, 0. So the foci, one of the foci, we take this one, is 4, so from the center we go 4 to here, and we go minus 4 to here. So this is F1, and this is F2, so this one is 4, 0, and F2 would be negative 4, 0, because the foci and vertices are on the major axes, 4 units away from the center. So if you have 4, and you have these two, you give yourself 3 marks. And the eccentricity is E is equal to the C, and because the major is the x-axis is the C over the A, so it's a 4 over 5, 4/5 or 0.8. Give yourself a mark. 5 for that page. And let's continue. Now we have an equation. We got an x squared or y squared with a plus sign. So we have an ellipse, which is in standard form. And so that means the center is 0, 0, because of the x squared, no brackets, there's no bracket, no x or no y, so 0, 0. And we have A squared is 4, so A is plus or minus 2. B squared is 25, so B is plus or minus 5. So which axis is minor? The minor is the shorter one. So we could say the minor axis is the x or we could also say it's the minor axis, the horizontal. And the major axis is the y, or we could say the major axis is the vertical. So this ellipse, if you think about it, drawing it, the x, if the center is 0, 0, x is 2 and a negative 2, and the y is 5 and a negative 5. So it's like this. So you can see it's longer here and shorter here. And the length of the minor is the x, so it's a 2 times a, which is 2 times 2. So the minor is 4 long because it's 2 to the right, 2 to the left, so it's 4. And the major is 2 times b, which is 2 times 5, so the major is 10 long. So 1 mark for each of these. And we go with the foci again. So the foci is, we got to get the c, so the foci is distance from the center, so c squared. In this case, the y is larger, so it's a b squared minus a squared. So c squared is, b squared is 25, a squared is 4, c squared is 21, so c is plus or minus the root of 21. So the foci, f1 and f2, it's the foci are on the vertical because that's the major. So we would go up and down here. So it's a 0 for the x and add on root 21 and subtract root 21. So the focus is 0 root 21 and 0 minus root 21. So the focus is right here and right here. So if you have root 21, give yourself a mark. You have these two correct, give yourself 2 more marks. And the eccentricity of z is equal to c, and the major is the vertical, so it's a c over to b. So c is root 21 over b, which is b is 5. And these numbers are positive. You can never use the negatives. Give yourself a mark if you have root 21 over 5. Find the equation of ellipse in standard form. You got vertices of plus or minus 8. So let's have a check at that. Vertices are on the major, so that's 8, comma 0. And this is negative 8, comma 0. And the co-vertices are 0, 3, 0, negative 3. So this is 0, 3. X is 0, y is 3. And right here we have 0, negative 3. So the ellipse is going like this. So what we have there is, now we need to get, we have the vertices. So that means that according to this, A is plus or minus 8, and this is B is plus or minus 3. So we have the center is the middle of these two, so the center is the midpoint, so the center is 0, 0. And so we have center 0, 0, so we have x squared plus y squared equals 1. And the A is this, so a squared, 8 squared is 64, and the b squared, b is 3, so it's a 9. So we have A is 8, and B is 3, center 0, 0, and you have this equation, 5 marks in total. In 4b, we have a foci. Now let's draw this one. Let's draw, see what's happening. The foci are at 0, 12, so let's say that's x is 0, 12 there, and is at 0, that's right here, 0, negative 12. So that means that C is 12, plus or minus, but C is 12, because the distance from the center. And the midpoint, if that's one foci, 0, 12, this is 0, negative 12. The center is the midpoint. So if you add these up and divide by 2, the middle is 0, 0. So, and the minor axis, so that's the vertical. So that means the minor axis must be the vertical is the major, because the foci lies on the major. The minor must be the x. So that means that 2a is equal to 10. That means a is 5. So that means we have a 5 here. So this is a 5, 0. And we have a negative 5, 0. So the ellipse is doing this. And this is the major. So we have a now we have to get, we got A and we got C, so we have to go and get that C squared is, because that's the major, so it's going to be a B squared minus A squared, because the major is the Y, which is the B. So C squared is, C is 12, so that's 12 squared, and we have B squared. We know what A is 5, so it's 5 squared. So that's B squared is 12 squared is 144. This is 25, so it's a plus 25 when you move it over. So B squared is 169. So B is plus or minus the square root of 169, which is 13. So the equation is the center is 0, 0, so it's an x squared. Y squared equals 1. And A is 5 is with the x, so that's a 25. And B is 13, so this is 13 squared is 169. And so if you have, that's 5 marks. So if you got the center again is 0, 0. If you got the value of A is, if you got C is 12, A is 5, B squared is 13, and you have the equation, so 5 marks in total. Total page, and you get the score out of 18. And let's continue. Now we have another ellipse. Again, we have a plus sign. We got a square and a square, and these are not equal, so if these were equal, it would be a circle. So the center of this ellipse is the opposite of negative 1 is 1. The opposite of a plus 2 is a minus 2. And so we have the, let's draw a picture. Sometimes when you draw a picture, is you got the center is 1, negative 2. So let's take the center to be right here. So the vertices are on the major, so we have to add the x. So we have a squared is 100. So A is plus or minus 10. This is the B, so B squared is 64. So B is plus or minus 8. So we take the center, which is 1, negative 2, and we add, the major is the x, so we add the 10 to the left and right. So we take the 1, and we add on 10, and we subtract 10. So the vertices are right here. Let's go right here. Vertex 1. And let's go this way and go vertex 2. So that means the y don't change. So we have 11, negative 2. And we have negative 9, negative 2. These are the two vertices. So we get 1 mark for the center, 1 for each of these vertices. And the co-vertices is that the co-vertices are up and down. So if the major is the horizontal, the vertical is the minor. So we will go 8. So B is 8. So we won't add on, we add on to the y value. So the y value is a negative 2. So we go negative 2, and we're adding on 8. So that's 1, 6. And we're subtracting 8. So we add on 8, and we go up right here. And we subtract 8, and we go here. So just do that. So this is 1 and a negative 10. So this one is COV1, and this is right here, co-vertex 2. So if you got each of these, give yourself a mark. Now the foci is that c squared again, because the major is the x, so it's an a squared minus b squared. So c squared, a squared is 100, b squared is 64, c squared is 36, so c is square root of 36 plus or minus, c is plus or minus 6. So that means that the foci are 6 units from the center. So this is focus 1 right here, and this one is right here. So that means we take the 1 and we add on 6, and we take the 1 and subtract 6. And the y value doesn't change when you go left and right. So it's negative 2, negative 2. So this one is 7, negative 2, and this one is negative 5, negative 2. So if you have 6 and you have these two correct, you give yourself 3 marks. And the eccentricity is the c over the a or the c over the b. So what's the major? The major is the x, so it's the c over the a. The c is 6. The a is 10. So 6 over 10 reduced down is 3/5, or 0.6. Give yourself a mark. So if you got 3/5 or 6/10 or 0.6. Now let's do number 6. Find the equation of the ellipse in standard form. If PF1 plus PF2 is 24, the eccentricity is 1/3. The center of the ellipse is a negative 2, 5, and the major axis is vertical. So when they said the major axis is vertical, again, we're thinking about that's the major axis is the longer one, so that means that if the b is b squared is larger than the a squared, so the major axis is the vertical. So that means, let's see, so PF1 plus PF2, so PF1 plus PF2 is, because the major is vertical, that's equal to 2b. So that means that 2b must be 24. So divide by 2, so that means b is 12. Now the eccentricity is the c over the a or the c over the b. Because the major is the vertical, this is c over the b. And that means the eccentricity is, e is 1/3, so that's 1/3. And b is 12, so it's a c over 12 equals 1/3. So 3c is 12, so c is 4. Now, eccentricity, c. Eccentricity is c over b, so we figured out c to be 4. So c squared is a squared minus b squared, or b squared minus a squared. Again, the vertical is the longer one, so it's a b squared minus a squared. So c is 4, so it's a 4 squared. B is 12, so it's a 12 squared. And we want to find the a. Because to get the equation, we have the b is 12, we need the a. So that's 1,644 a squared. So a squared is 144 minus 16. So a squared is 144 minus 16 is 128. So to get the equation, I don't need to find what a is because I just got a squared. So the center, here we go. The center is x minus h, so it's x plus 2 squared. We got a 5, so it's a y minus 5 squared equals 1. And a, this is a, so a is a squared. This is a squared here, so that's a 128. And this is a b squared, so b is 12, so b squared is 144. So this is the equation that represents this ellipse. And again, just right here for a second, I didn't have to simplify this. If a squared is 128, I just needed an a squared here. So, but if I wanted to go on to find what a was, a would be plus or minus the square root of 128. Now, the square root of 128 is, if you break it down, 2 into 128 is 64. So that's plus or minus the square root of 64 times 2. So that's plus or minus 8 root 2 if you wanted a radical. But I didn't need a. I just needed a squared. But if you wanted to get what a was as a radical, it would have been 8 root 2. So 5 marks altogether. Again, if you get your B, you get a mark. If you worked out your eccentricity, you got your C to be a mark of 4. If you worked out the A to be a squared to be 128, you give yourself a mark. And if you got this equation right, you give yourself 2 more marks, 5 altogether. 14 for that page. Now let's continue. Change to standard form, state to center. This is an ellipse because you got an x squared or y squared. You got a plus between the x squared, y squared, and the a and the b are not equal. So this is an ellipse, so we'll group the x's. We'll group the y's. And we'll move the 15 over to make it a minus 15. So we'll take the 3 out, x squared plus 2. We'll factor out the 4, y squared minus 6. Now the reason we take out the 3 and the 4 is to make the coefficient of x squared, y squared 1. So now we'll go half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1, so we put a 1 here. So that balances it out by putting, when I put a 1 here, 3 times 1 is 3, so I balance it. And half of negative 6 is a negative 3 squared is 9 to complete the square. So I put a 9 here. So 4 nines is 36, so I add on 36. So this is a 3. Factorization is an x. Half of plus 2 is plus 1. And this is a perfect square trinomial, y. And a half of negative 6 is negative 3. And when you add them up, you will get a 12. Divide by 12, each part of the equation, and you have x plus 1 squared. 3 into 12 goes 4. 4 into 12 goes 3, so you have a y minus 3 squared over 3 equals 1. And this is the standard form. And the center is opposite of plus 1, minus 1. Opposite of a negative 3 is a plus 3. So, if you worked out this equation to here, you get 3 marks. If you get this one, you get 4 marks. So, by completing the square and working it through here, so if you did this step right here, you got a mark. If you did this one, divide by 12, you get a mark. So 1, 2, 3, 4 all together. Number 7, find a foci of, again, this is the ellipse because you got an x squared, y squared. Remember, an x squared, y squared could be a circle, ellipse, or hyperbola. But because we have a plus between the x squared, y squared, we have a circle or ellipse. Because the a and the b are not equal, the stretches are different, we have an ellipse. So let's isolate the x's again. Do it right. And isolate the y's. And move the 284 to the right, make it positive. Now, we complete the square, but we have to take out the 25 first by factoring. So that's, now I'll do that for each one of these. So 16 comes out by factoring. So notice I factored the 25 out to get 1x squared. I factored the 16 out to get a 1y squared. So a half of negative 4 is negative 2 squared is 4. So that's 4 here. 25 times 4 is 100. Balance it. A half of 2 is 1 squared is 1. I put a 1 here to make it a perfect square trinomial. So 16 times 1 is 16. And we factor the perfect square trinomial. X squared is an x. Half of negative 4 is negative 2 squared. 16. That's a y squared, so that's a y. Half of plus 2 is a plus 1, all squared. And if you add that up, you get 300, you get a 400. So divide by 400. So 25 into 400 goes 16. So we have an x minus 2 squared over 16. Y plus 1 squared. 16 to 400 goes 25. And divide, we get a 1. So that's standard form. From the standard form, we're able to pick up the center. So we have the center is the opposite of negative 2 is 2. Opposite of plus 1 is a minus 1. So that's the center. We have, this is a squared. So a squared is 16. And this is the b squared is 25. So to get the foci, we need the c. So the c squared is, and again, the larger one is the y. So this is a b squared minus a squared. So we have c squared is 25 is b squared. A squared is 16. C squared is 9. So C is plus or minus 3. So the foci, let's draw a little picture of what we have here. So we have a center of 2, negative 1. 2, negative 1. That's the center. So the foci are on the major. So the major axis is the y. So we will go up and down to get the foci. The vertices are vertical, so we would add 5 onto this y value to get the vertices. 5 up and down, we get the vertices. And the foci are C, so it's 3 up and down. So we add 3 onto here. So we go 1, 2, 3. So this is focus 1. And we go down 3. 1, 2, 3. This is focus 2. So, and when you do this, what happens in the center? So if the center is 2, negative 1, so the x value doesn't change. The y value add on 3. Add on 3 to negative 1, you get a 2. And take away 3 from negative 1, you get negative 4. So the foci F1 is 2, 2. And F2 is 2, negative 4. And 6 marks for that question. And if you complete the square and bring it down to the equation, so if you get this equation correctly, you get 2. If you get the center, you get another one. If you get C, you get another one. And if you work out, that's a mark, and that's a mark. And you got your center with your equation, so it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 marks in total, 10 on that page. Hopefully everything is going well and you understand, because it takes a lot of practice and understanding. Now, it says find the solution. So this is the equation of ellipse, because we have a plus, we have an x squared and a y squared, and the a and the a squared and b squared are not the same. So this is the ellipse, and this is a linear, a line. So let's call this equation 1, and let's call this equation 2. So I'm going to take, now most people would change this equation, but what I'm going to do is make it a little bit simpler. Notice I got an x and a y. The y got a 1 coefficient, so I'm going to take this equation and solve it for y. When I do, I'm going to sub it in right there in the place of y. So then I have the equation with all x's. So let's take equation number 2 and solve it for y. Again, I'm not solving it for x. Y equals negative 2x plus 13. So we're going to take that and sub it into number 1. So we got x minus 2 squared over 9 plus y is negative 2x plus 13 minus 3 squared over 36 equals 1. So I got x minus 2 over x minus 2 squared over 9. Simplify, I have negative 2x, and that gives me a plus 10. Now let's see, just to make sure. Let's see, 2x squared plus, okay, that's a plus 10. Okay, squared over 36. So the LCD is 9 times 36. So 9 times 36 is, let's see, was 9 times 36. 6 9s are 54, 27, 27, and 5 is 324. Okay, so the LCD is 324. So we'll take 324 and multiply by each part, because if you multiply each part of the equation by 324, so 9 into 324 goes 36, so we get 36x minus 2 squared, and 36 into 324 goes 9. And that's a 324. Now we got to keep simplifying the equation. So what we have is, we got 9 and 36. Now look what I just did. 36 is the LCD. I multiplied the two of them together. So let's take the LCD to be 36. Now, let's take 36 into, now that was not smart of me. I just jumped the gun there for a second. I just said 9 times the product, but it's easier when I take 36. So this is a 4, and this is a 1, and this is a 36. Now, I just jumped the gun there and multiplied them, but 36 is a multiple of 9, so we get a 4, and we get a 1. That makes it much easier. So we're going to square this, 4. X squared is, to square this binomial, take the first term and square it, you get the product of negative 2 and double it, and you square the last term, and you take this term, and you get negative 2x squared is 4x squared. The product here is negative 20, negative 40x squared. 10 squared is 100. 36 multiplied by 4, multiplied by 1, okay, we group the x's together, so we get, let's group them now, do it right, 4x squared plus 4x squared minus 16x minus 40x. Let's see, plus 16 minus 10 minus 36 equals 0. That's 8x squared minus 56x And this gives me, when you work this out, we have, let's see, that's a 4, 16, that's a 36. Okay, that's a minus. Let's see, I should have a minus. Oh, 10 squared is 100. Now see, make that here as 100. So this ends up to be a minus, a plus, better be careful, 16 plus 100 minus 36 gives me a plus 80. A little here, just what threw me off here, I don't think must have thrown me off, is that I didn't quite notice that 36 was the LCD. So this is a plus 100 because the 10 squared is 100. So 8 is the GCF. 7/8 are 56 plus 10. And quadratic, hopefully it's factorable. X squared is x and x. Factors of 10 to give you 7. 5 and 2. Product is positive, sum is negative, so negative 5, negative 2. So we ignore the 8, so x minus 5 equals 0. X minus 2 equals 0. So x is 5 or x is 2. So now we plug that into 2x plus y equals 13. So x is 5, so it's 2 times 5 plus y equals 13. 10 plus y is 13. So y is 13 minus 10, y is 3. So x is 5, y is 3. Now we sub that into the line again. Again, it's easier to sub these values of x into this linear with less variables than it is to put it in here and have to do more work. So x is 2, so x is 2, so we solve for y. Again, go back to here, x is 2, get a 4, and 13 minus 4, y is 9, so x is 2, and y is 9. So that little error here of 36 just threw me off here for a second, but you can see that the line intersects the ellipse at 2 points, 5, 3, and 2, 9. And there's 8 marks for that question. So let's see, if you want to get 8 marks, 1 there, and if you solved it out to get this equation right here, you get a mark. And if you work that equation right down to here, would you multiply by 36 to eliminate the fractions, you get a mark. And if you solved it down to here, you get a mark. So there's 4. If you get each of these, a mark each. If you solved and got the 3 and the 9 and put it in the ordered form, in the ordered pairs, then 8 altogether. So add up all your pages, put your score over 55, and see what percent you got. And hopefully everything went well. And if it did, that ends the ellipses in this unit. And if you like, again, the end of this video, if you like it, click the like button, click the subscribe button, visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. And that's the content that I have on my YouTube channel, which is just one word, Math Fully Explained, just one word. Thank you for viewing my video. Hope the video helped you. Bye-bye.